Alright, so Pink and the Keytar cat threw down the gauntlet, so here we go. Here is my quick review of my Keytar collection video. Not pictured here is the Yamaha SHS-10. Pink and the Keytar cat has a much cooler gray one. I have the more common red one, but my sister currently has it back in the States, and I am currently living here in Mexico. Alright, so as you can see, I don't like big Keytars. I don't keep them. I keep buying them, trying them, and then I sell them because they are just too big and stupid. Sorry, that's just how it is. A Keytar, I think, needs to be in that 30-ish key range. That seems to be right. Mini keys are not. It's still the feel that is right for me. The big ones are just unwieldy, extra weight for no reason, and you only really are going to be using all that keyboard if you're doing two-handed playing and looking like a stupid T-Rex. One hand on the keyboard, one hand on the neck and controls, and you can occasionally sneak in some bass notes with that left hand, but don't do it too much. That's what normal keyboards are for. And let me just hit you with this little revelation. Keytars are an extravagance. They're not necessary. There's really nothing you can do on them that you can't do on a normal MIDI controller keyboard. But there's a lot of things that you can't really effectively do on them that you can do on a normal MIDI controller keyboard. But I'm just going to run through the pros and cons and the comparison between these. I was just talking with my wife over lunch about how annoying it is that there's really no standard with Keytars. They all have their own control schemes and layouts, and so when you go from one to the other, you kind of have to relearn everything, and that is kind of awful and stupid. Not something that happens with a guitar. You can just get a new guitar and it's still a guitar and it works the same way, but not so with Keytars. So, for instance, the Roland Lucina AX-09 here has a pitch ribbon and a modulation squeezy bar. Okay, the Yamaha KX-5, which was my first Keytar in black, this is a new one, has a pitch ribbon and a modulation wheel. The Korg RK-100s has a pitch ribbon but does not have any modulation control on the neck unless you press the alternate button, and then the pitch ribbon becomes a modulation ribbon. But it also has a gigantic freaking ribbon that travels the entire length of the keyboard just below it. So that's a whole different story. The Elisa's Vortex Wireless 2 here is configurable, but it really is strongly suggesting that you use the pitch wheel on top of the neck, because you can't actually modify that to do anything else, and then use the ribbon there as modulation. So, as you can see, there is absolutely zero consistency with the control layouts there. So one thing I forgot to talk about that's different between a pitch bend wheel and a pitch bend ribbon is that on a pitch bend ribbon you can do hammer on and pull off guitar technique, because the center point of the ribbon is the neutral pitch position. Then you have up toward you, pitch up, and then pitch down away from you. And so you can hammer on to the high position, and that's usually 2 semitones up, or you can pull off to the lower position all the way down, which is usually 2 semitones down. And sometimes it's an octave on sounds that are supposed to be more like an effect, like a big bass kind of sweepy sound, that kind of thing. That would be more likely to be programmed as an octave. But in software instruments on a computer, you can typically change all of that stuff in Contact or any of those other things. That is one benefit to a ribbon that you cannot do with a wheel. As you can see, there is absolutely zero consistency with the control layouts there. And if you play software instruments, that gets even worse because there's additional differences. The Lucina and the RK-100s do not have Keybed aftertouch. So if you're used to using aftertouch to control vibrato on your software instrument, for instance, nope, you're not going to get it with those, even though they have other things that are arguably better. The Yamaha KX-5 here and the Alesis Vortex Wireless 2 both do have Keybed aftertouch, but it's not configurable in any way, so it just is what it is. So with software instruments that support aftertouch, cool. With anything else like a hardware synth where you cannot configure that, or if you're playing anything that does not support native aftertouch, you're screwed. And I have always thought aftertouch should be able to be configured as modulation, because what the hell else are you going to use it for? So totally doesn't make any sense. I think it's a legacy thing from the 80s and we're just stuck with it. But there you go. Differences also between these. The Lucina has full-size keys. The Alesis Vortex Wireless 2 has full-size keys. The Yamaha KX-5 has short, less tall keys, and I think maybe they're 3/4 width. They're close to full size, but they're not as tall as a normal key, as you can see here. And then the Korg RK-100s uses mini keys, but they're actually taller than normal key. Either that or they're just narrower, but the same height as usual, so they seem taller proportionally. Anyways, so all sorts of different thinking going on here. The Lucina and the RK-100s have onboard sounds. The Yamaha KX-5 and the Alesis Vortex do not. They're just dumb controllers. And the Korg RK-100s really is geared toward analog synth players, electronica, and that sort of thing. It's all about the arpeggiator and fat basses and that sort of thing, leads, etc. Whereas the Roland Lucina is definitely a lot more up my alley sonically, where when I played this in a folk rock Americana band, as you can see, I primarily was using organ, cello, piano, strings, harp, etc. So naturalistic sounds, and you're not going to find any of those on the Korg. If you are, they sound freaking weird. So all this to say, I own way too many Keytars, because what the hell am I going to do with all these, really? I just like them, and that's stupid. So thank you, me, for convincing me to sell some of these. So my current thing with Keytars is I'm trying to learn to play lead guitar on Keytar, because due to 10 years of forced piano lessons, I have some ability to play quickly on Keytar, and I don't on a real guitar. So I've bought, sample packs, the full version of Contact, Orange Tree samples, shreddage from whoever that other company is. Yeah, and what it boils down to is I'm basically just controlling it with a MIDI controller, and I have plenty of other MIDI controllers. There's really no reason why I need a Keytar for that. So what is the point of a Keytar? Well, they're cool. That's arguable. They get you out further up front on stage. I don't really like that, honestly. I prefer to be in the back and let the front line do their thing. So, yeah, I don't know. It's not a thing that I'm good at arguing for the existence of, honestly. But if I had to choose one of these keyboards and throw all the rest in the river, then it would have to be the Roland Lucina. The sounds aren't great, but at least it has naturalistic sounds that I'm more likely to use. The others are really just going to be useful to me as controllers. The Korg RK-100s, they're supposed to be updating that with the SP that was shown an early demo of at NAMM, but there's absolutely no news about that. And if they include sound engine with more naturalistic sounds as an option, maybe a sound set akin to what's on the SV1, then I probably will have to get rid of this one and buy that, because that is much more useful to me. So the RK-100s and the Yamaha KX-5 are both heavy Keytars. They feel more real. They feel like actual instruments, like an electric guitar, about that heft. The KX-5 is because its neck is a giant hollow steel pole, whereas the RK-100s is because its body is made of wood, like the old RK-100 from the 80s was. Vortex Wireless 2 is the lightest of the four, with the Lucina following close behind. All of these get a significant weight bump from the batteries, especially if you have high capacity rechargeable AA's like I do. The Lucina is still on the lighter end with the Vortex because their bodies being all plastic. But the shells on both of those are really high quality plastic. They feel nice. The original Vortex did not. Its plastic body and its keys were like a really crappy plastic. But they really bumped it up to Roland quality levels with the Vortex Wireless 2. So yeah, there you go. Big keytars suck, and I have too many, even though I keep selling them. I've had 2 AX synths. I've had 2 previous Yamaha KX-5s. Will I buy other keytars in the future? Probably. Yamaha's releasing that new SHS sometime soon. It got delayed. And then, of course, the Korg RK-100 SP. If that sound engine is more up my alley, then yeah, I'll probably get one eventually. So there you go. That's my keytar collection. So rock on, keytarists. Keep being lame.